You're listening to the Career Plus Life Catch-Up, episode number 44. Welcome to the Career Plus Life Catch-Up, a show anchored in reality to help you create a balanced life where you enjoy both your work and your life, because you don't have to choose. I am your host, Cecile Ferry, a corporate executive turned coach and working mom. This is your place for insights, advice, and tools to optimize your career direction, balance, and confidence. I'm so glad you're here. Let's get into it. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to the podcast this week. I hope you are doing well. I hope you are doing maybe as best as you can if things are pretty tough at the moment, especially if you are in Australia, in Victoria, in New South Wales. I just want to send you lots of support, lots of encouragement, and anybody else in the world, I hope this is a good week for you. So I just thought today it was time for another coffee catch-up. So you may have missed the first one that I did, which was episode number 32. So I do those episodes from time to time, every maybe 2 or 3 months or so, where it's a bit of a break on one main topic that I teach or that I coach you on. And this is more of an informal chat, like a conversation between you and you bring your cup of tea, your cup of coffee, even like it might be a drink, a glass of wine, whenever you are listening to this podcast. Hopefully you're not like doing too much housework or running around at the same time, and that can also be a time for yourself. So I like to use those coffee catch-ups as times to share with you some of my personal learnings, because I feel like I am my best teacher, if you like. I use myself as a way to experiment, to learn, to grow on, and then I really love to share what I've learned myself, the changes and the shifts I've made in my own life, hoping that this can inspire you and there can be some benefit to some of you that what I'm going through and what I've been through might resonate with. So this is really the intent about today. So I talk more about personal things. I might talk about work as well, but we go in all different areas of my life as well. And then I will share at the end some of the current books, podcasts, resources, like things I go to right now that I've discovered to come across. So today I have 4 little topics for you. We're going to talk about boundaries. It's a topic I know a lot of us like to hear about. We are going to talk about when life is hard. We will talk about sleep and about parenting. So I hope you're ready. You've got your cup of coffee, your cup of tea. You're nice and relaxed, and we can have this chat together. Let's get into it. So the first topic for our catch-up today is on boundaries, which is a recurrent theme, especially for women. And so look, when it comes to boundaries, I used to think that I was pretty good. I don't do things that I don't want to do. Basically, I'm not a people pleaser. So I was like, I've got it covered. But I've realized that boundaries can be about other things and not just about what you are actually doing. It's also about things that we are saying yes to that don't look like doing as such, but they are still demands on our energy or on our time, and they still have an impact. So for me, I uncovered recently 2 areas of my life where I actually needed better and more boundaries. The first one was that I was making myself available pretty much all the time for communication. And in today's time, we're all always on, and we've got the WhatsApp and the text messages and the Skype. I have my family overseas. So basically, the term that I've realized what was going on with me is I had this excessive proximity with everybody. And that meant I would pick up the phone every time someone called, even like if it's 5 or 6 p.m. and I'm right in the middle of juggling dinner and my daughter and shower time, and I'll still pick up the phone and have an hour conversation if it's required, right? Also, I was saying yes in Skyping with my family members at the other end of the world whenever it suited them. And so they would just like come and message, and sometimes it was 9:30, 10 p.m. at night, and I'll be like, oh yeah, I haven't spoken to them in a while, so of course. And also I was like always keeping up, answering text messages, all of that within the one day. So I looked at what were my beliefs behind those behavior. And my beliefs were, I have to respond. I have to be there when people reach out. Which in hindsight is such a people-pleasing behavior, isn't it? That was my first belief. And my other one was, it's not okay. It's not respectful to get back to people later. Like that was just a no-no for me. So was I thinking. So I realized that I was doing that, and when you need a boundaries because you feel resentful afterwards. So I realized that every time I was having those phone conversations, having those Skype conversations, afterwards I was a little bit, if not a lot sometimes, like upset and disappointed that my time had gone and that my Sunday night had been hijacked, and that then my own agenda had to shrink and I didn't have much time to do other things. So I finally noticed that unless I was starting to put a boundary on it, I was always at the mercy of other people needing to talk to me or to communicate with me. The other area of my life where I discovered I had a boundary issue was when I was saying yes to every enticing opportunity, whatever it was. So I don't know if you have that maybe in your life, but it's also linked to communication. But I have lots of options, offers, things that land on my plate, left, right, and center, from friends, from work, from networks. And I kind of want to do it all. And as soon as something comes through, if I'm remotely excited, if it's a yes for me, I'm like, yeah, let's do this. And it can be anything. It can be like a webinar here. It can be, there's a great offer to buy tickets to go there. There is this great food event happening there. And I'm just like, yep. As long as it aligns with my values, I'm saying yes. But what I realized is that I was probably taking on too much more than what I could chew. And I was always like, yeah, sounds great. And I would just add this to the to-do list or just squeeze it in with everything. But then I was adding up and always like having more things to do, to organize, to buy, to attend to use up, right? So then I realized, again, this was really amounting to a lot of time. So the belief that I had here was, I can't let a good opportunity pass. It was a bit like, let's have this and let's do this. So deep down, that kind of means there is a belief on there isn't enough, or that I need those external things to be happy. Basically, because I realized I was never saying no. Everything was a yes. If I actually started to choose and do less of those things, if I actually said no to something that came my way, what would happen? Not so much, but it would actually decrease my mental load. It would decrease my to-do list. And then ultimately that would decrease my stress and make me more relaxed. So now I have stopped being readily available to talk to anybody or to take them up on any opportunity. So that's like a new boundaries that I've put. And it feels good. And that is how you know you set up the right boundary. Because before, when you need a boundary, it feels bad for you, especially afterwards, sometimes even during it. But then once you've put the boundary and it feels good, then you know you've got the right boundary in place. And I still get tested at times, and I have still people reaching out, and some of my brothers who want to chat on my Sunday nights when it's late. And now I just said, I'm sorry, I can't tonight. Is there another time we can do it? And we ultimately always work it out. But I say yes to myself first. And for instance, with communication, I now give myself 3 days to get back to anyone. And by the way, I don't apologize to anybody else either. I just do this and I just manage my communications politely. I don't let people hanging if they need to hear from me, but I have stopped making myself so available and have that excessive proximity with everything and everybody. So maybe see if this can inspire you to think about a boundary you might need in your own life, and see whether it could be communications related or it could be other things that you're taking on, and afterwards you kind of feel like a withdrawal. That's how it feels for me. Like you feel like you kind of been cheated on, or you haven't gotten your fair share of the bargain, but this is because of you and your decision. So that's when you decide, okay, next time this is what I will do. So good luck to you. If you've got a bit of boundary setting to do, you will see you're going to feel so much better afterwards. And in hindsight, it's not that bad. It's really about saying, no, I'm not going to do this, when you catch yourself about to say yes to someone out of an automatic behavior or out of familiarity or out of what you think is going to be easier. So that's when you need to catch yourself and say, no, actually, this is what feels right to me. This is what's going to make me feel okay afterwards, and go and be true to yourself. So good luck with setting up some boundaries in your life. Topic number 2 for today is talking about when life is really hard. So I want to open up here because some of you may think, just following me on social media, following me on this podcast, that things are going pretty well. And they are to some extent, but it looks like I've got maybe things really sorted, and I've got the kind of life that maybe you envy and that you aspire to, which is great. And it's also why I show up here. But I also want to be really transparent and showing you that I am as human as you. And I also have those hard times. And definitely this year, I've had a huge share of hard times. So I think this is completely normal. And that's why I want to share here, because I want you to realize that you are not doing that badly. Maybe sometimes we tend to think that, you should be better, you should be further along. I think, people don't talk easily about their problems. And that's definitely a downside of social media, where people just project all the good things only, and that just perpetuate that impression that that is how life should be. And then when you're struggling, you just don't tell anybody. There's kind of a stigma around it. So I want to change that. So today I wanted to talk about the last few months, because if I had to put a color over it, it was a lot of gray, and it has been really hard. But I like to look at it with my eyes wide open and to look at why this happened and how I got through it. Yeah, as I said, I think this is normal. And I actually talk about this a bit more in detail in episode number 39 on the lessons of personal development. So go and check that one out if you haven't. So what was going on for me in the last few months? Well, there's been a lot of lockdowns in Melbourne. We've been in lockdown a lot since about June. Now we are in October. Not many breaks from that. And with the lockdown came the homeschooling, with the juggle with work, both my job and my business, having meetings, having clients, lots of things to do. And then at the same time, when I didn't have my daughter, I had a lot of solo weekends where when you're in lockdown and you don't see anybody and all you do is just going for a walk by yourself, it can feel really isolating. On top of that, I've had some really challenging relationship with my ex-partner, still, trying to heal things there, develop good communication, and it's really tricky and difficult to navigate. So I've been riding the ups and downs there. Also, my daughter, I will talk to you a bit more about that in another section today. It has been challenging for her with the school being on and off and all the changes to her schedule. Also, still getting used to a new way of life this year after our separation. And I guess also her seeing me so stressed a lot of the time, right? And so tired, juggling all those other things I just mentioned. So I'm not saying, oh, look at me, poor me, I've had all those things happening, because chances are a lot of you have it too. It's not about that. But it's to say that I have my share and I constantly work on myself. And I try new tools, I try new thoughts, and I get some support. I absolutely rely on therapy, I rely on coaching, and it works. It really gets me through. And it doesn't mean it gets rid of the hardship and it allows me to bypass it. And no, it doesn't. But it helps me to understand what it is and to give me the tools to process when things are hard and ultimately to get out the other end. So some of the things I do when I particularly go through those hard times is that now I'm being very kind to myself when things are hard. I've realized that doubling down and pushing myself or telling myself I should be doing better or more is just compounding the situation, and it's totally not necessary. So that is different from, I'm not letting myself have a free pass and go on the couch and eat 5 packets of cookies just because I'm having a hard time. I try not to do that because I do know this is not going to help. But it's going to help mentally to not put myself down or to not pressure myself for things to be different than what they are. So part of it is some self-acceptance, and then to not compound it, to not add to it. And I take it slow. And on those days in particular, I still stick to some structure, even if I don't feel like it, like doing some exercise, a walk, maybe a run, even if I don't feel like it, because I do know it is important for myself. So it's like you've got to be your own coach, your own healer in those instances, even if you yourself are being challenged. And then you got to rely on external help, which we all do, absolutely. I'm also aware that during those times, my tendency to worry, because we all have that, right? We're wired to look for things that could go wrong out of survival and protection. I do know that my tendency to worry is going to increase. I do know that I see things darker than what they usually are. So I try to watch that I do not catastrophize, because we're super powerful at that, aren't we? Like, we can just go down there and we can make it all mean that things are going to be even more difficult, and we just rehash and ruminate all the things that are going wrong. So I'm not saying I'm able to not do that, but I'm able to watch myself do that and then to try to rebalance myself thinking about more positive things. It's not like pink colored glasses, but it's that balance of the mind. And I know now that we've got to wait until things get better, because they inevitably will, because they always do. I really see life as being that pendulum that swings from one way, and therefore the pendulum always swings the other way. It's like, by definition, it's like low. So if you are going through a low, maybe right now, if you've had a couple of really tough months, know this, that things won't go back up, and that when things are hard, they're probably supposed to be hard. And it's about learning how to slow down, how to accept them, how to not make it worse, and get through that. Because on the other side of that, there are some lessons, there is some resilience, there are beautiful things that we gain through getting through hardships. So I hope, this helps you to see that everybody is having that mix of hard times, and that it's okay, and that you maybe need to seek out some help to get through it. And in terms of coaching and life coaching, I can absolutely help you. I will put in the show note a link to a page on my website that details my latest life coaching offer, because I feel it really addresses those kind of challenges. And it's something that I use for myself with other coaches to really help navigating whatever may be going on that is stressing you out, whether it is a relationship topic, it is something personal for you, about yourself, about your family, about your partner. So you should check it out at careercatchup.com/life coaching. Topic number 3 is about sleep. And I want to share with you a new concept that I have discovered, something that I was doing in my own life. I didn't know there was such a thing as a concept, that actually it was a thing and that it was described and had been researched. But I realized looking at the symptoms that I had in relation to my sleep, and I found this thing, and it is called revenge bedtime procrastination. So it may not apply to you, but maybe it will. Or maybe it will apply to someone in your family or within your household. So what is it? The definition I found online is it's the act of going to bed later than intended, while no external circumstances are accountable for doing so. So that is choosing to delay bedtime without a practical reason for this delay. So some concrete examples that I was indulging in, that I have been doing for months, especially since I've been living on my own, but I've really noticed it more recently, is that I stay up late at night doing things that I enjoy, but at the same time I can see I am really exhausted, yet I cannot get myself to bed. So I'm like texting my best friends, I am browsing things that I'm interested in, I'm reading, I'm maybe sometimes tackling a personal project, and like before I know it, it's getting later and later, and I feel like I can't stop myself. And of course I am exhausted, and I see myself being exhausted, yet I cannot move myself off the couch. So maybe you've been doing some of that, and you're like, well, why am I doing that? I know I should be going to bed, but I'm enjoying being up. And the research explains that the origin of that bedtime procrastination, and it's a revenge because you do things at night that you haven't been able to do during the day. But the origins are twofold. The first one is the blurred boundaries between work and our home life. And by the way, this sleep procrastination issue existed before, but has come up more to the surface since COVID-19. So because we've all had to work from home, and now there is that intersection between work and our personal leisure time, and work has been pushing the hours. We all know it, and we've all felt it. So that means that our daytime, we've kind of squeezed out our personal me time during the day. Work has just been taking more of the lion's share, and we have less of those transition times between different parts of our life where we can have time for ourselves. And then therefore, that's why it just happens before bed when everybody is asleep, because then there is no home life and there is no work to do by then. The second factor that is driving that is the heightened amount of stress we get during the day. And that has been obviously COVID related a lot, but we have so many things we have to juggle or we have to attend to. And pretty much that means throughout the day, we have to put our own desires into a box, and we have to resist them, and we can't satisfy them, and we don't have what we want. So basically what happens is the less we enjoy things during the day, the more likely we are to reclaim them at night. And that is exactly what I was doing. And at night, I just suddenly had a sense of freedom. It was just like my time. But it was having an impact, obviously, on my sleep. And I don't need to tell you the impact on sleep deprivation. It's bad for your health, it's bad for your productivity, it's bad for your ability to make sharp decisions. So it is a really challenging thing. And I wanted to share it in here because I didn't know that. And by becoming aware of it, it allowed me to change a lot of things. And I know a lot of you have been affected with the pandemic, with losing access to daycare or to school. So you've probably, like me, felt like your days were completely swallowed to look after other people and other things. And maybe you've been pushed to delay your time going to bed too. And for me, I realized this was very much a control thing, because during the day, I just couldn't control the way I wanted things to run, because I had to just respond and react to everything. But then in the evening, this just gave me a sense that I could have what I wanted. And that is a bit of a vicious cycle, right? Because it is reinforcing that appearance of having control over your life. So the solution was for me to be aware of why I was doing it. And it made complete sense. And the minute I read about this research and this concept of revenge bedtime procrastination, it was pretty much gone because I knew why I was doing it. A few other things that I'm doing is I have re-implemented for myself a digital curfew because that had just been blowing out, I realized. So no more 10 o'clock, no more phone, like I put mine on airplane mode. And also it's important for me to have 1 or 2 breaks during the day to do something for me, even in lockdown, even in the middle of the madness. Because when I do that, the days I do that, I can see that I go to bed much earlier and without that procrastination. So it's that balancing act. So I hope this brings you insight if maybe you've realized that you tend to do the same. You got to rebalance with giving yourself 1 or 2 things during the day that are enjoyable and not wait for the evening, because unfortunately there is no positive for you. You get that short burst of dopamine, of freedom and peace and things going your way in the evening, but you pay for it with your sleep deprivation the next day. My last topic for today is about parenting. And by the way, I am no parenting expert whatsoever. And I bet a lot of you know more about parenting than I do. But I learn things little by little. So I will always share with you what I have learned because it may help you too. So in the last couple of months, as I mentioned, my daughter was quite emotional. She was very demanding. She was very needy. Constantly at home, even if we were outside of the home, especially during the lockdowns. So it was really challenging for me because it was draining me and I frankly had enough. And I was thinking, this is too much. She is too much. Why can't she just slow down? Why can't she stop being like this? Why can't she be happy at some times and I can have a break where things are going fine? I was like, fair enough, at times kids need some help, but that ongoing neediness was really weighing on me. And I was kind of dreading it in advance when I was getting up in the morning. And by the end of the evening, I was so drained, right? So you may relate to that. And I wanted her to be more autonomous, just on a better behavior, basically. But what I didn't realize is that this wasn't her having behavioral issues. This was just her reacting very healthily to what was going on in her world. And of course, her not having all the coping mechanisms that we have as adults to deal with it. And to be frank, even as adults, we struggle to cope with what's been happening in the last year, right? So how can I expect a 7-year-old to know, better, to know as well as me, basically, or pretty close? So what I didn't realize is how much she needed me and what she needed from me. And that came to me through a comment my psychologist made when she said to me that I was in my head. I was busy focusing on juggling the work, the homeschooling, the to-do list, the running the house and the meals and the mess around. Of course, I was being that organizer, that traffic controller, if you like, getting things to work and to pan out. And you do need some of that. But I was too much there and I was missing some of the important focus somewhere else. Because I was missing out as my role as parent to provide emotional safety, to provide attachment for my child. I heard that comment about being too much in my head and not enough in my heart. So I changed things up. And the last couple of months, I've loosened up things a little bit and I've made more effort. I've paid more attention, especially, for instance, in mornings. So I spend more time with my daughter. I give her big cuddles. I sit down with her on the couch. Instead of just rushing and doing 3 things at the same time and being busy somewhere else in the house, right? Even like once I brought her breakfast in bed, just as a nice things to do for her. So those small little things that pay off big time, because my daughter felt reassured. She felt nurtured. She felt loved. But this has to come from the heart. I know a lot of us are so busy in our heads managing our mental load. And that's when we spend so much of our time. And the pandemic has just heightened that to the next level. But the reality is, and I've realized that with my daughter, is what she needed was not so much that. I had to do the bare minimum there, yes, to keep the house going and having food in the fridge. But it wasn't as important as being there for her. And I know also that if I don't look after my daughter well from an emotional point of view, this will shape up the way that she sees the world and how she would grow up as an adult. And by the way, and we don't have any insights yet on what the pandemic is doing on our kids from an emotional point of view. But I guarantee you we'll see those reports within a year or 2, and that it won't be pretty. So again, I'm not giving you expert advice, but what worked for me is to move from my head more to my heart and take the time throughout the day to be emotionally present, to be emotionally caring and nurturing. Not all the time with everything. We're not talking about spoiling them, but we are talking about kind of coming down from whatever tower and chair we are on, worrying about all the things that need to be run, down to being there and giving that love and reassurance where maybe our kids need it. That's it for the coffee catch-up today, my friends. I hope that you've enjoyed it. I hope that some of the topics, maybe all of them, hit a chord with you and that you can take some of my learnings on board for yourself and try it on, really. Otherwise, other than that, what else have I been reading and doing? I have been reading Claim Your Power from Martin Kipps, and I have linked it in the show note of quite a few recent podcast episodes. It's a 40-day plan. So you get 1 chapter a day. It's very, very brief, but you have something to do every day for 40 days. And it helps you basically move from a state of feeling stuck and unhappy with your life to having clarity on your goals, having a plan, knowing your values, your purpose, and feeling more positive and basically starting to take action that you've never taken before. So it's really turning your life around. The other book I've read, I've mentioned it in the last podcast, is The Ride of a Lifetime. I've also read a book called Codependent No More that talks about how in some specific situations we can be so emotionally attached and dependent to someone else, and we take responsibility for their feelings and we tend to care for them, we tend to rescue them, we tend to always be the one helping them out, and we dedicate ourselves to them. So that was a really insightful book by Melody Beattie. I will put them in the show notes. Right now, I cannot wait to get my hands on the latest book by Mel Robbins called The Hi-Fi Habit. If you're not following her on Instagram, I found her content really inspiring and her book seems to be really taking off. So it's something that I do anyway. I high-five myself in the mirror every day and I enjoy doing it, but I want to read the whole book to see all the research behind it. In terms of podcasts, I've been pretty steady with what I have, but I've been listening more to the Self-Healers Soundboard, which is with Dr. Nicole Leperta, an American that is also really rising right now with all of her work in emotional management and trauma. So that's what I've been doing and reading. And what's also been good for me is I'm sticking to a regular yoga routine where I just do 20 minutes, sometimes 30-minute class online first thing in the morning. I do a slow flow, so there is a little bit of intensity, but not too much. It just gets me to really stretch and move in the morning without being a full-on workout, and it's done quickly, but I feel it enough. So it's a really nice way to rise up in the morning. And I might do a 1 hour class maybe once a week if I can when I'm alone, but this is just more family friendly. I can just do it 20, 30 minutes before my daughter gets up, or even if she's up, she can just busy herself for 20 minutes. So maybe you've got that, you can just go on YouTube and you can take any class for 20 minutes, be it a workout, Pilates, be it any form of yoga that you like. Thank you so much for being with me today and for listening. I hope you find those coffee catch-ups insightful, and I will probably have another one towards the end of the year during the Christmas holidays that I am already very much looking forward to. So I wish you a beautiful week. Keep your head up. Things will improve if they are tough right now. Remember that. And you definitely have so much that you can do that is already going well, and lots of things ahead of you that are really good. So enjoy your week, and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to find out more information, you can visit my website at careercatchup.com. There you will find blog articles, free resources, a self-study course for your career direction, and ways to work with me. It's at careercatchup.com. I hope to continue to connect with you and support you. Talk to you soon.